Hello, Shirley Adams with Program 5, Series 2 of the Sewing Connection. While browsing through a marvelous shop in New England, I saw some napkins which would be exactly right for a room in our house. The colors were perfect for upholstery in the office, but really, we don't use napkins in an office. But combining prints is such fun that it occurred to me these napkins are just about the right size for pillow tops. So let's do a little bit of home dec. Because these napkin edges were already hemmed, we're going to not have to hem them later. We're going to just put them down right sides together on a backing, the pillow backing here. And I want to make that backing a little bit larger since it is not hemmed, it is not finished in any way. And I just need to cut these out then. And I'm doing this, possibly 1/3 of an inch wider, bigger than the napkin is. And after I have this done, I'm going to serge this top individually, or that's what I would be doing, because I just want to finish that since the napkin edge is already done. Now, if I'd take a little bit more time, I'd probably take out the hem of this napkin and press it out flat, and then put the two edges together and do the whole thing on the serger. But that takes a little more time, so I'm not going to bother to do that. I'm just going to do it on the sewing machine, and I'm going to come close to that hem that's already there. Well, what I would do then is go ahead and serge this. I'm going to bypass that step and just go to the next step, which would be putting some things together, such as a zipper is what we're going to do to attach these and so that they will zip open. I like to do pillows that way, both because it's very easy to put zippers in them, but also because you might want to take those covers off and wash them, dry clean them, whatever, in this case wash them. So just to get a little bit ahead of the game, I've already put one side of the zipper in, and this is going to be an exposed zipper. We aren't actually going to see, or we are actually going to see this zipper when I'm finished. You could also do it so that it's covered up, but there is no need for this. So, all ready to sew here, I'll just put a few pins in. Be sure, of course, to put your zipper foot on the machine so that it'll do just right. And what I'm using here is a zipper that's a little bit larger than what I really need. And the reason I'm putting some pins in, you wouldn't especially need this just doing a straight thing, but because this is a little bit padded, a little bit bulky, the zipper could scoot along. So it's not a bad idea to put a couple of pins in and just keep it here in place so you won't have any mishaps. Now notice this zipper is hanging out over the end, and purposely. It's so much easier if I don't have to sew around that zipper tab, so it seemed the easiest thing to just use a longer zipper than I really need for this project. Then it's going to be a quick sewing, and this is going to be just as close to the zipper. Now notice that I've put the zipper down with the right sides together and the right side of the zipper against the right side of the napkin. So I'm looking at the back side of the zipper here while I sew, and I'll get another pin out so that I can move, so it will move along there. Okay, anyway, once you get going, this is just really fast, really easy. And to do an enclosed zipper, one that doesn't actually show when you're finished, would really not be any more difficult than this, but I'm doing this the quickie way. Usually when I put those pillows around, I put the zipper on the bottom so it doesn't show anyway. Okay, once you have this all sewn, then it's going to be ready to sew the other three sides. Now I would have a hard time getting it open if right now I would sew the other three sides. What you have to make sure that you do is unzip that zipper. So I'm going to unzip it so that I'll have a place to reach through to turn it later. And as I was sewing this very quickly, I attached some fabric in the zipper. No, I didn't when I was sewing it. It happened as I was there. Get it up again, get it down. Maybe if I put it down flat on the table, I can unzip it more easily. Okay, now there's no problem. Okay, so here we have our zipper, and we're going to sew around the other three sides. Now this would be easy on the serger. These are plastic zippers, nylon zippers. You can sew right through them on machine or a zipper. It doesn't matter. Don't try to do that with a metal zipper. You might have a bit of a problem then. But we would just put a few pins in this, and doesn't take too many. This is a nice project. I've heard people say, well, they sew their clothes, but they don't do any home dec. It seems to be so difficult. There is no easier sewing than home dec. So you might try a little bit of that and see how easy it is for you. Okay, so now we're ready to do the rest of it, and I no longer need this zipper foot, so I'll put on a multi-purpose foot and sew around the other 3 edges. And remember, I'm going to sew as close to that hem as possible because I don't, do a little back stitch there, because I don't want to have to take it out. I want to instead just leave as much of the border there as possible. And I'll put the needle position down so it'll stay there when I get to the corner. It's a nice little feature on machines that keep it in place, keep it held. I'm not pulling this pillow through, but I am holding the fabrics a little taut before and after they are stitched. And that's so that the top layer doesn't scoot over the padding. Okay, we're coming up on the last side here, and as soon as we get to the corner, we will be about finished with this pillow. It wasn't too difficult, was it? And then we need a little back stitch here, and then we can cut off the threads and cut off the zipper and turn the pillow right side out, and we are actually finished. It is that easy, that quick to make a pillow. So something you might want to try. Now, what I love about mixing prints, and you can do it very successfully, anybody can mix prints. You don't really have to have an artist's eye for this. You can do it as long as you keep the color family the same. Then they all look like they belong together. It looks like a decorator did it. And so it's a very easy way of making these combinations. So it'll then zip up and put a pillow form inside, and we're all finished. I do like to have them combined that way. I had such fun making these few that I've made here that I'm going to keep my eye open again in some of those little gift shops with the pretty napkins. Don't, though, shy away from anything in the fabric stores, for goodness sake, because they have such marvelous combinations, and usually they're all color coordinated for you so that you don't even have to put things together. You just go to one area and everything's in the same colors. Well, there's another real quick way that you can do a pillow like this if you don't want to do a zipper. Some people prefer to instead have just a little envelope type thing there on the back that folds over, that opens, and you can stuff the pillow in it. And so if that's the case, we're going to do that on this pillow. And on one side, we're going to want it to be the same size as the pillow, so I'll cut down this way. And then on the other side, because I am cutting 2 layers here of the back pillow, the back side of it, since I have those 2 layers, I only need, because they're going to overlap in the middle, and they'll have little folds over that way, I only need this to be about 3/4 the size of this. I could measure it with the tape measure, but here's a quickie way to do 3/4 of it. I folded the pillow back in half, and then I'll fold it back again, and what I have right here is the 3/4 mark. So if I just fold this under, I can cut the other side of that pillow back, and it will be, and I'm accounting for the fact that I folded this a little bit crooked, but it will come out just about the right size. Then this piece we don't need. These 2 pieces down here we do, because they're going to form the pillow back. I don't have a decorated front. I have some purchased quilted fabric here, which is fine. You might do a little applique, you might do something on, but it's fine as is. Now what I want to do with these is just press a little hem over in each of them, maybe a couple of inches. And I'll just get that pressed real quickly. Do the same in the other one. Turn it over and do about 2 inches here or less. I'm using a selvage edge. You can see the white selvage there, and I'm just using that selvage as my edge and not bothering to do any stitching at all. This is really quick pillow making. Now, if you didn't have the selvage, you could, of course, hem it on machine and do a little bit better job than that. I want right sides up here, and I want the pillow top down, so I better turn them over so that I can get these the very same size, but you can see how they do overlap. And then it's all ready to serge. I'm going to put a few pins in this too, but remember, when you serge, don't get near those pins or you're going to have a big problem. If you accidentally stitch over some pins on the machine, you probably won't do any harm. On the serger, you have a little bit of a problem, so be sure that any pins you put in, keep them away from the edges. Okay, that ought to be about enough pins to hold, so we'll just take this over to the serger and see what a really quick job this does. This is a little bit faster than putting in a zipper, but really the zipper wasn't that much trouble, as you saw. So I'll get this under here and away we go. What I actually had meant to do is put the 4th thread in this serger, and I just now noticed I only have 3 threads, but that's okay. We'll go ahead and do it that way anyway. And another side. I recently had someone ask me in a live seminar if I trade in my machine and get a serger instead, and I stopped her right away. You don't do that. This is in addition to your machine. It will never take the place of a machine. I don't know how I could live without one, but you need both. You can't do without the machine. Okay, and this is the last corner, and we're through. So once you have this corner done, it's over and out. And all we need to do is take those pins out, and once the pins are out, we can turn this one right side out and put a pillow form in and have another quick pillow. These are so simple, so easy to make. Sometimes people like to change the seasons and have different ones for spring and summer as opposed to the fall, winter ones. Kind of nice thing to do because you can get it fresh and airy and light and sunny looking for the warm months, and yet get it kind of cozy and perhaps a little bit more intimate looking for the cold months. So not a bad idea. But when it's this easy to slip cover the pillows, to just make new covers, there's no reason to hesitate. Well, the pillow would then just be put inside here, and this substitutes for the zipper very nicely. So either way, you can see making a pillow is a really, really easy thing to do. Something that's kind of closely related to pillow making might be, I was talking about the seasons. It isn't that far until Christmas. It can't be more, when you're viewing this, than 12 months till Christmas anyway. So why not get an early start? Or maybe you're seeing it in November and it's time to do it very fast. So along with this pillow making, what's very similar really is making stockings, since Christmas will eventually be here. If you have anybody, the family, the neighbors, whatever, if you have anybody who needs to have a stocking, here are some quick ones. Now these are fun to make with quilted fabrics because, again, they are so fast, they are so easy. And all you need first of all to do is to make some sort of a pattern. The shape of a stocking isn't difficult. Artist or not, I think you can make a stocking shape. Get one of your socks out and just blow it up bigger so that it looks fatter and will hold something, for goodness sake, because you couldn't fit much in a wearable sock. Then I have 2 layers of the fabric here, and these layers are already with the right sides together, so they're just ready to cut out with the pattern. And this pattern then, after I cut it out, I would also just do it very quickly on the serger And with so many of the really pretty serger threads that you're able to buy in the shops, you don't even have to turn these inside out when you're finished. Now I did. I serged around the edge and then I turned them right side out, but they were made in a flash because they were done on the serger. But with some of those pretty serger threads, you might use that as the outside decor on it and not even bother to turn it inside out. So a little bit quicker still. Now, I'm not really just all about fast and easy, but this is just too much fun to pass up, doing something that is actually this fast. Very easy to cut any of these quilted. There are some marvelous ones in the fabric shops and in the quilting shops. More and more, they're already quilted for you, and they usually have coordinates to go with it. They always have coordinates to go with it, in fact. And these coordinates might be other quilted fabrics if you need more than one quilting design, or they may be just flat fabrics, the one layer of fabric that coordinate with it so nicely. So check these out when you're there buying the quilted. See what else you can get to go with it. This would also do well in felt or in corduroy, or just about any kind of fabric would do nicely. When you're doing the decorating on these, you might even think, I'm just doing children's things, but if you're doing something for the whole family, you might even think, well, what's elegant for Aunt Sally? And what is very masculine for Uncle Ben? And you might think of a whole lot of things like that and do some really original, fun decorating things on them. Now with this, I didn't really go too elaborately. These are done very, very simply because I was kind of aiming this at the non-artist, for people who really keep claiming they have no artistic ability whatsoever. So in aiming it at them, what I have done here is some cookie letters. These are very easy also to do, but remember that whatever you do with the fusible web, the type that you peel off the sheet, the transfer web, and put them down, remember that it's going to reverse right to left. Therefore, you either have to write these cookie letters backwards if you're going to do that, or if that seems a little silly to try to write them backwards, then do the reverse, turn the paper over. Instead of using the smooth side, the actual release sheet that you would pull off, instead of that, turn it over. The rough side, this is actually the fusible web side that I'm going to be writing on, because this way I don't have to do the mirror image of it, and I can just do it here as I want to. So I'll do a little quick writing here, just a child's name, somebody very cute that I met, and a little redhead, and I'll just sort of connect these. Now, I'm doing this upside down for you. I'll do it upside down for me. Maybe I can do upside down letters. And they don't have to be straight. They usually are cartoony fashion, you know, going back and forth in different ways. So they're just fat letters, and they look kind of like animal crackers, cookies. So here we have a name. And then after you have that name drawn, you just fuse that on some fabric. So with the iron heated there already, I'll fuse this. Well, this is much better than lining them all up and making block letters and doing them all perfectly, isn't it? A little bit easier this way. So we'll choose a fabric here, and Corey might like this stripe. We'll just do a little stripe here. So we'll get this fused in place on the back of some fabric, whatever kind of fabric, all in one piece. And it does this very quickly. You just rub your iron over it and it's done. And then it's ready to cut out and put on the little stocking. Now these, whatever little decorating you're doing here, you could do just as easily on a pillow as on a stocking. Fun to make those extra pillows for children's rooms. So I'm cutting this a little bit carelessly, but it doesn't make too much difference because as we stitch around the edge, we can take care of this. Now, if you did not fuse these to your pillow or to your stocking, You would have to turn under all these edges, which would be a little bit time consuming, or you would have to do a satin stitch around the edge so that it's completely covered so that it won't fray out at all. But the fact that I have these fused down, I might do something a little bit different. I might even do, a kind of a blanket stitch around the edge on the machine, of course, the fast way. And I have some little middles here to cut out, so I better get some smaller scissors for that. These don't all have to be one print also. This is a fun way to combine a whole lot of prints. And as I said, in the quilting shops, in the fabric shops, wherever they have the calicos, usually you go to whatever color it is you're interested in. If it's red, then they will have probably about 50 to 100 or 200 colors in red, all different prints, and whether it's stripes or checks or flowers or whatever it is, they all combine very nicely. Everything goes together very well as long as I said earlier, you keep the color families all together. Okay, we have this all cut out, and we have then a stocking over here. I'll put on the press, and I'll peel off the backing and get this fused to it. Now this made a kind of a pale stocking. It didn't really turn out too colorful because of the, I'm going to tear the paper so I can get it started here. Because of the little striped fabric I chose here going against the background that we're using, it isn't really too colorful. So this would be a good place to use some very colorful thread to give it more impact. And since I don't have, there we go. And just position it however you want to and go ahead and press it down. And then you're ready to go with your machine stitching on it. But if you're the non-artist you always claim to be, I have this always at live seminars, they say, oh, but you're artistic, and I'm not. Well, neither am I, really. I just sort of have the nerve to go ahead and do it, whether I am or not. And so non-artists also might want to do something of this sort. Now there's the name, and it's very pale because we still have to add to it all the stitching that'll bring it out and make it more visible. But if you're not that artist, then find some of those wonderful fabrics that have little pictures all created for you and that you don't have to work with. This fabric that I have down here, for instance, had a multitude of goodies on it. It looked like this before it was cut, sort of in squares. It was just begging you to take it all apart and cut up pieces and use it this way. So what I have cut out here is a teddy bear, just straight cutting. These would even be good projects for pillows, or for children to make, depending on what the traditions are in your family. This is so easy, and this would be a kind of a fun way to introduce a child to sewing. So I'm going to peel this off and fuse it. A little static there, and it does stick. So you might put a few of these around before you start doing that stitching. And I will later perhaps fuse a few more things here in place. And then to do the stitching, do whatever neat things your machine does. I think I'll go to a little blanket stitch, as I said. So I'll push a button here that'll do that stitch for me. And I do have navy thread on top, or some kind of blue back there, so it will show up a little bit better than it did. But here's how that's going to work then. It's going to work backwards of how I had figured it was going to work. I'm going around the letter the wrong way. So let me just turn this around and we'll do it backwards. Be sure to do that on a scrap so you know which way you are going. Okay, now it's doing the right thing. It'll go into the fabric and back out again. So then it's just a matter of turning. And very simple, but if you like that homemade touch, that country touch, this is a good stitch to give that. If you would instead prefer a satin stitch, then that's a possibility too. And so let me just switch to a satin stitch, and I'll do that on some of it. Let's do a small one here. because this is okay. And by doing the sample stitch and just running out of thread as I did there a minute ago, but by doing this I make a little bit more definite outline, and that's not a bad idea to have that. As I ran out of thread it got hooked a little bit. So anyway, it would be a more definite outline if you needed that. Then after you get all this stitching done, whatever you want to on that, then it's time to put it together. But think also when you put it together what other things you might want to put with it. Now Corey wouldn't like the lace, but a little girl might like the lace on it, the eyelets. So find all those wonderful findings to go along with it and see what else you can do. Well, for beginning sewers, home deck projects are really good practice because they are so quick, easy, and instantly rewarding. And for the advanced people, they're just simple fun, and your home will appreciate the soft touch. Another soft touch can be felt in the velvets and velours that we're going to be considering next time. Come join me and we'll examine pile fabrics.